centering in for our opening prayer. Heavenly Father, Mother God, we're so humbled and overjoyed to come to this place and join together with our spiritual brothers and sisters. We're so overjoyed because it is your will that we join together in harmony. We surrender onto the altar in our heart all sense of conflict, all sense of challenge, all sense of humanness, ego, the stuff of politics, the stuff of religion, the stuff of medicine and science, all things that we're making up against your will, we put on the altar and ask you to receive. Help us to forgive ourselves and each other for all the miscreations and find in our heart and soul a clarity, a purity, an innocence. It's in this place that we can meet you at our highest level. Show us what you'd have us do, what you'd have us be, what you'd have us say and not say, so that we can become the living Christ. And in this day, and on this day, and in this moment, we look upon each other with an absolute certainty. You are my brothers and sisters in Christ, and we rise to home. We rise and ascend together. And in advance, we give thanks. And so it is. Thank you. Now, if you would join me, there's a card in front of you that has our mission statement. You're welcome to repeat it together with us. The Global Center for Christ Consciousness is a spiritual center for students and masters on the spiritual path. We are dedicated to awakening the inner Christ and to creating a world of love, peace, joy, and abundance. Now, you can continue soaking in our sacred reading for today.
This is from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to change the world, start with yourself. The day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace and forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The greatness of humanity is not in being just human, but in being humane. There is a force in the universe which, if we permit it, will flow through us and produce miraculous results. If you want to change the world, start with yourself. Love is the strongest force the world possesses. Remember that all through history, evil and ego might seem invincible, but in the end, God and the spirit of love will prevail. And so it is.
Nice. And what topics would you like covered today? I had a couple people email a couple things this morning, so I'll come back to that, but what would you like me to cover today?
Divine protection, addiction or passion. Money changers in the temple.
Okay, one sec. Okay.
Manifestation. Death and rebirth.
What is it?
Death and rebirth.
Okay, thank you. One of the ones asked about being death and rebirth. And it's a funny thing this morning, before we went live, we were doing our blessing for the newcomers. And I said, let's begin. And everybody started reciting the prosperity blessing. And I think it's because usually that's the prayer I help lead, but everybody went right in. And then a couple of the requests are about prosperity and manifestation and so forth. So that's definitely there. But the idea of death and rebirth, one of the simplest things I'll say about that clearest things is you can only rebirth as well as you die. There's yeah, right? And that's motivational. Die well! But it's true. Whatever movement you're going into, you're still there. So the more you die of your old self, the more you're free to rise to a new self. Now, if God, Jesus, angels, or something were standing in front of you and said, I heard that you're open to a rebirth. Absolutely. How much of a change are you willing to do? 1%? And they would be like, why even bother? If you're not willing to let go of your stuff, you can't achieve a rebirth. So in a way, die well. I mean, whether you're on literally a deathbed or a major sickness, I mean, now's the time to be surrendering. If you're laying there sick and your prayers are all about getting better, you've died afraid of dying. And now that's with you when you go to the other side and when you come back. Like really, do the swan song. Do the, here I come. I'm ready. What would you have me do? Like in your living prayers, starting your day, what would you have me do? Do the same prayer when you're dying. Not, well, let me just let you know what I want. See, that's, wow. Darn it, they would say on the other side. You were this close to passing your tests. And it's the same with, you lose a loved one, they leave you or whatever. We often pray, get them back. Most prayers are about getting back the person that left you. But that's not dying well. It's, to try, we say we trust God, but when things don't go our way, we throw tantrums. It's remarkable if you think about it. And it's the same thing with that concept of you asked about manifestation. And I don't mean to be too brief on each of your requests, but honestly, manifestation, or as I call it, man's infestation, trying to make things happen the way I want them to happen. That's not co-creating. Putting this in the context of relationships, there's another way to put it. Human relationships are understood by almost no one. I mean, my God, you date, you get married, one night stand, all these different things. Why did you do any of them? When I was a kid, I got married. And I was a kid, I was young. And a neighbor said, so why are you getting married? And you know what came out of my mouth? I don't know. It's just, isn't that the next thing you're supposed to do? I mean, and that neighbor, thank God, poor guy, he didn't say what he's probably thinking. But that's, I was just kind of, well, isn't that what you're... See, what I'm saying is people do things and they don't know why. And they have relationships and they don't know why. Now, Jesus, despite all his miracles, he didn't ascend, go to the other side and go, huh? Yeah, what about that raising from the dead thing? No, the walking on water. He never bragged about his miracles. He didn't care about miracles. He wasn't doing them for the reasons people think, to impress people, for example. Do you know what he really cared about? Relationships. And people don't understand that. 2,000 years ago, Jesus was walking the planet, and he's doing all these incredible, miraculous things. He comes back in one form, 2,000 years later, channeling a book called A Course in Miracles. Does the book tell you whether you should kneel or stand when you pray or meditate? No. Does it tell you how to do this, that, and the other? Does it tell you anything about your diet? Does it say your hands should be like this or like this or like this when you pray? No. Does he say roll your eyes to your third eye and go Om Mani Padme Boom Shakalaka? No. He doesn't do anything fancy. You know what he tells you? It's in your relationships. If you cannot take responsibility and work on yourself, you've missed the test. He doesn't really get into the fancy stuff. He doesn't tell you to wear only a certain color. He doesn't say go up on the, sacred mountains. He doesn't tell you to go to sacred sites. He says there is no greater sacred site than right where you are when you've experienced a forgiveness and a healing. Now, if you don't do that, you've created an unsacred site. So it's amazing. 2,000 years later, and he comes back and says, yeah, I know. The raising from the dead and the walking, I know. You know what I really want to tell you guys about? Your relationships. And he showed up to Helen, who channeled the course, because they were arguing. They had board at a hospital, and they were all fighting all the time. And one day she said, this has to stop. This arguing and this fighting has to stop. And I don't know how to do it because the ego is here. And she had one other person say, I agree with you. So let's go into the meeting different. Let's go in stealthy and just plant seeds of positivity, no matter what anybody says. And we'll just positive. And if there's somebody in the room that didn't want to give up their ego, I'm sure they're gone or unhappy that they're sitting there in a room with people that want to get along now. But that's what happened. He worked through her and said, the reason you're channeling A Course in Miracles is because you made a commitment to get along with another person. Now, does that mean as soon as you or I decide to get along, we're going to receive a major book like that? No, you're not supposed to be worrying about the external things that can happen. It's the internal peace. It's the absolute, oh my God, I'm blown away that this relationship is healed. So people just don't know. Now, mystics, when they asked about relationships, even the apostles, there's things in the Bible about relationships. And do you know that most of them said, I wouldn't do it if I were you? That's what you developed in the 16 years you were in a cave? You came out to say, don't have relationships. And the reason they were saying that is because they suspected something's wrong with this picture. And we don't know what to do about it. We don't know how to advise you because the ego is so rampant in life that whether you're married or just dating, this stuff's going to surface. So the mystics are like, abstain. They weren't cursing relationships nor intimacy. They were saying basically, I have no idea what else to tell you because relationships are where you do your work unless you don't want to. And you have free will. But how free are you when you will to not do your work? Think about that, Yeah, it's like strange. And there's a lot of people, and I'm saying this partly because as I'm saying this, I know that there's a few sessions in particular. One of you in Europe and different places around the world just this week calling in for, relationship sessions. One guy specifically asked to talk about mental toughness, another topic then that goes on our list here. But again, mental toughness is really not intellectual toughness. Mental toughness means tenacity to hold your center. What kind of center? Healthy center. See, now some people say, yeah, exactly. I believe in holding my center. And they're saying, my center with rudeness or with intensity, which is your ego center, which is not centered at all. So it's a false version of centered. So the mystics are saying, no, man, stay out of relationships. It's a dangerous area. And I'm not trying to put words in their mouths, but I'm saying, in a sense, that's what they were having to deal with. Like, we don't know what to tell you. And the apostles, well, if you're doing it for this reason, maybe, they're all guessing. And it takes 2,000 years not to get improvements on meditation techniques, not to hear improvements on breath work, not to hear improvements or new ways of practicing ascension. It took 2,000 years to get a better training on what they couldn't tell you about 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and so on, which is your relationships. It's like kind of remarkable if you think about it. So human beings are walking around the planet going, yeah, I have a relationship. Really, why? Now, they're going to always fit into one of three categories. Attraction of some kind, whether it's hormones and chemistry and all that. That's just weird. Dad, why did you marry Mom? Well, the hormones were just right at the moment. I wouldn't be too proud to say that. Oh, chemistry. If I was your kid, I'd be like, wow, that's it? There's your attractions, externals, the hormones and all that. The second reason, desire. Most of our attraction to people in terms of emotions are basically, hi, I'm messed up and I see you are too. You want to get together? Subconsciously, my issues and addictions and compulsions match yours. I don't want to look at my fear of abandonment. So I'm going to meet someone who says, nice to meet you. What do you like? oh, I'm a very faithful. All my relationships have been, 20 years. Well, you're only 22, so, you know what I mean? So we hide these things, but we're codependently creating. That's emotional. Then there's also the third reason, which people call connections. Oh, this isn't just physical attraction. There's a deep connection. Usually those are contracts, karma, and things like that. Even, intellectual similarities. But understand, what I just described to you is the 3 lower chakras. And people come to relationships from one of the 3 lower chakras. And if it were more blatant, it means every time you walk into a room, whether it's a place to go dancing or meet somebody or even online, it means you'd be walking around with your lower chakras, hi. But then people would see through you and they'd go, no, that's not what I'm interested in, But that's what relationship meeting people should look like. That's what they should do on the dating sites. Just show people leaning like this. Coming from my lower 3 chakras. But that's honesty. It's always one or more of those 3 things. And think about what I just said. Attraction, emotional kind of codependency and addictive kinds of stuff, compulsions, and more intellectual, which seems so much more evolved. But again, all that is more like an intellectual, mental version, contracts and debts and stuff from the head, even though it's a solar plexus chakra. So there's another way, and that's the heart level. See, the heart mostly doesn't come from these. It doesn't exclude them entirely. You come from here, and this means I don't care if you and I get together. I feel really good. But if we do, I want to share something like some moment with you of love and respect. Is that cool with you? Now, other people might say, oh, absolutely, so that they get you, so that they can get back to their lower 3 chakras. And some of you have gone through this, and oh, God help you, man. And I'm sorry, but, just because somebody changes their pickup lines to, how long you been in Sedona? I've taken yoga. They don't tell you 3 days worth. They just go, yeah, I do yoga all the time. I do hot yoga, cool yoga, And then they often, and in Sedona, but these days they often throw in, yeah, and I've also taken workshops on Tantra. No, they haven't. They don't even know how to spell it. They don't buy into these. It's all silly human stuff. Now change your mind and just imagine them going like this, because that's all they're doing. Do you want to date somebody whose posture is like this? It doesn't make sense. So just see through it and laugh a little bit inside yourself. And try not to make it obvious, Really. And then when they say, I really feel a connection, just don't make it too obvious that you want to burst out, because now it's a lie. It's all a game. The ego will do anything to set people up for unhealthy relations. So instead, the heart center is like, no, I can't go back to that at all. It's not of interest. Now, if you say, I'm going to fight that urge, I'm going to resist, you're not there yet. That's kind of like joining recovery, going to a bar, having a beer and go, this time only one. You're not recovered. You're really not. Well, I'm going to do better. Yeah, you're not recovered. A lot of great sponsors and teachers of recovery will tell you, you don't get into recovery and do a little bit of correcting some areas of your life. It's like a death. And if you don't understand that it's a total death, it means you're leaving parts that will sprout again and pull you off, which is why there's sometimes failures in recovery, because you're not really that committed as much as you think you are. So they call it reaching bottom. Well, like I've said many times, bottom could be here instead of here. As soon as you just go, I get it, that could be bottom. I don't have to completely go into a ruined life to call it bottom. When you are evolved enough, you're allowed to say free will means bottom is right here. I will not go any further into this mess. Don't need it, not interested. Fighting it means you're still there a little, tempted, so watch yourselves. Doesn't mean you're bad, at least you're trying. I'm just saying there will come a day where you say, that's it. It's not of interest to me. And there'll be casualties. I mean, there'll be, an end of a relationship, a child that won't speak to you, and things like that that'll happen because you're saying back to, my center. But the heart chakra, this is based on feelings of love and respect. But you're also feeling like your soul. You're feeling connected and you're plugged into your soul. I just can't, on this level, I can't imagine being pulled by any of those other compulsions. And that's really beautiful and healthy. But again, some of the old friends or some of the old colleagues or some of the old partners, children, etc., sometimes they will not get that. They're going to think, you've done something wrong. And usually when relationships end, people don't go, wow, I can see where I've done something. They go into this and, and they blame. And that's just typical insecurity. And it's psychological and spiritual immaturity to get to that, to go from those other places. No matter how great you think you are, relationships will show you whether you really are or not. I'm such a loving and forgiving person. Really? You kick them and they go, I hate you forever. It didn't work, did it? You're loving and forgiving stuff. So it's where the rubber meets the road, as some people call it. It's where you really get to see how you're doing. That doesn't mean that if you have a relationship that's challenging or, you give up on it, you're a bad person. It just means you didn't do it. And you're going to be called to do it tomorrow. I personally, I cannot even imagine, like literally if I sat and imagined any person in history that I could say, I refuse to mend, to forgive, to connect. I can't imagine one in history that I would toss out. If God had me at the gates of heaven and said, you're in charge, I would just pin the doors open. I can't imagine saying, well, that one's got to go to hell. And not all of us are like that, but that's how I feel about things like that. I can't, not because I feel great, better than anybody. It's because it doesn't make sense to me. If I leave someone out, that's an area in me that I have chosen to make an issue. What do you think hell is? It's a place of issues. So as soon as you have something you won't forgive, you're in hell. That piece of you is in hell. That neuron is in a dark place. And I'm not saying you're bad for it. I'm just saying you get to rethink it and say, is that where you want to remain? So, if we think of relationships from a heart center, it really has very little to do. You can still be attracted. You can still feel a little this and that. And you can still feel a certain connections on a certain level, and all that, those three chakras. You can still have some of that. You don't have to be like perfect and stellar because then you wouldn't have to bother with any of it. So you're in this place. It's just that it's more love and respect based. My kids, I would like them to all lower self. I want them to get straight A's. But in this place, and it doesn't matter. I love them anyway. It doesn't mean I'm not going to give them suggestions. But this place doesn't have the agendas that the others have. Because this is my broken self, so it has to have agendas so that I can think that I'm avoiding or fixing my broken self, which never happens in the lower self. So everybody that I meet in the lower self is going to be one of the people I blame for not fixing my issues. And that's just typical human stuff. So we have people that walk around going, oh, I'm so from the heart. We'll find out. We'll see how you handle other tests in life. If you slip, it's not worth getting down on yourself about it. It's a test. Retake the test. Just take the test over. But it has to be authentic. You can't fake evolution. It's just so viscerally perfect, meaning what I see out here, my relationships are a mirror of how I'm doing with God and myself. A relationship can end, but if I feel bitter and bite a little and so forth, I'm not there. If it were me, I would go, oops. Wow, that one caught me off guard. Let me work on that. That's the best thing to do. You're going to have relationships with whomever, however, work, family, whatever, that go a little weird. You're going to have, people that are hurtful, dating and that sort of thing. But what do you do about it when it all comes to a conclusion or while you're in it. I would always recommend, commit to communication and healing. This is sort of the human self is like a soulmate relationship, believe it or not. Because there's connections in soulmate, karma in soulmate. Soulmates are not perfectly holy people. Soulmates means it's like the British version of mate. It's like you're my mate. You're my buddy. Mate means my friend. I remember you. Oh, it's my mate. And that's what soulmates are. Oh, you again. It's just that we put it often in a positive context, but you can have soulmates that are cellmates, where you're both held in hell together, but there's connection. Oh, that helped. This is more like the level of twin soul, which is no agendas. I feel a love and respect for you, and it's profound. Believe it or not, soulmates can, and usually often do, there's romantic soulmates, there's family soulmates, there's colleagues, work soulmates, even men and women going to war together, watching each other's backs, are often soulmates in battle in previous lifetimes. Twin souls are not about, hey, you're looking good. What is that? Why do people keep thinking, gotta find my other? You're the only other. You're a whole person. You're not a fragment. You're a whole being. A soulmate should show you that. They often do and often don't. It goes either way. Love-hate relationships. Hit and miss with human relationships. But in the heart, no agendas allows me to love you no matter what. And when you reach a certain level of soul, heart and soul, level of relationship, love and respect, then comes the twin soul concept. But it's not the romantic one people think it is. More often, twin souls end up saying, there's something between us. And a human's going to go, no, that's human compulsion again. When you connect with a twin soul on a deep level, what it is, what can you and I do to change the world? Twin souls are more about working together than they are about hooking up. Honest to God. Edgar Casey's soulmate, he was married. So there's a soulmate, his wife. But he also had this much greater attraction to his stenographer. I won't go into the details, but it's funny stuff. One of the times I was at the Casey Foundation, I was just looking, and they had this big mural and this collage of pictures, and I'm very sensitive. I pick things up, and I'm looking, I'm going, And then I was sitting with his son later. I said, is it just me? Or the pictures of his wife, it's like, like the farmer picture with the wife. It just looks very like, but when he's standing with the stenographer, it's like, he looks happy. And his son said, well, let's put it this way. She would come to dinner a lot at our house. And there was a lot of upset digestions in the room. And I said, well, yeah, I could see it. And in the readings, Casey asked, hey, there's a lot of connection with this twin soul here. And the reading said, well, yes, there is. And you can pursue it, and it'll be a very beautiful, passionate partnership. But the work will not happen. Because you'll be focusing on something else. Channel that into the work, and then it became 14,000 readings for people. Not 14,000 sentences, 14,000 full readings that went all kinds of different directions. So 14,000 exponentially became hundreds of thousands in terms of information or readings done. And what that means, it's the same for you and me. Twin soul, to me, there will come the point where all souls are soulmates in a positive sense, and all souls are twin souls, because we're all one. Really, we're all one. Down here, I'm searching for some one to be with. Here, I start to feel oneness more often. Here I am one, upper three chakras. Searching for one, feeling oneness, I am one. Which one do you want to choose? And if you're in a room like this, a group like this, you're going to, I want the I am one. Watch what you ask for. Because the more you start to feel this love and this love, this oneness, the less interest you have in this world. Which is odd and awkward to be in this world and not of this world, because you kind of don't know how to function anymore. Normal conversations. Friends get together and they're complaining about their husband or wife. They're talking about cheating and these kinds, and you're like not interested in supporting that. They talk about, politics and politicians and the hatred they have for, wow, like you can't relate. Are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? Be careful. The answer could mean your life. Who knew that was going to happen? Once we started having people over at Whole Foods wrestling, in the parking lot over whether they were vaccinated, that was like an epiphany for some people. Wow. Even in Sedona, even at your health store. Health my butt. You're rolling around in the parking lot in a headlock with each other, and you're women. It actually happened over here. Like, you've got to be kidding me. So I shouldn't say anything because now you'll have another, issue with me. But it's true. Like, what are you thinking? Where's the love? You're reading cans of foods to make sure there's no toxins, but you have some other person in a headlock. Trust me. All your glands and organs right now are intoxicated with poison. So I don't care what you eat. I don't care if you get the most wholesome, I don't even know the names of the stuff you people eat. I don't know the names. Name something you know. Salad. The most wholesome salad. I always call that lettuce, but lettuce is the thing, right? And the salad, yeah. So you go and get the most wholesome salad. That's great. And you put your hummus stuff on it. And, make it as tasteless as possible. And wow, I feel the buzz of vitality from those greens. And then, parking lot over a vaccination. It doesn't matter. Your lettuce, your salad is becoming deadly in your system. You should only be feeding yourself love and forgiveness. And you will slip. And sometimes I'm using the metaphor, you will sometimes ingest something that's a bit toxic. Try to catch on as soon as possible. You ate something that was a little off, maybe you better take some charcoal to help absorb the toxins in the system. You see what I mean by that? Metaphorically. Try to catch, as soon as you can, catch the toxic thinking that you're getting yourself into. And if you don't, okay, but you're in hell. Part of you is in that darkness, and that's where you're going to continue to go. If you have any relationship from the past, no offense, meant, and it hurts, because some people are pretty selfish and hurtful. Parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, people at school, I totally get it, and I hold you and I say, I'm really sorry that anybody was ever hurtful to you. Fine. Now what are we going to do after that? So mourn, let that out of your system. But then what are we going to do about it? We have to detoxify as soon as possible. You can't detox if you haven't owned that you've ingested something. You have ingested something. How do we know? Because you're having an upset stomach. You must have been, well, not me, because I eat only wholesomely. Stop the defenses. Let's get to what we can do about it. The sooner, the better. So when we truly access the heart center, it's like a whole different way, level of thinking. But the spiritual, this is I am one. Let's just start here. Forget about ascending to God today and just at least get into your soul more. Feed your soul. You feed your body. A lot of people are conscious about how much water they ingest and how much, proper foods. Always about the body. But if you don't even know how and who to date and why, how can you trust your opinions on food? Try this, I don't know. I don't know the best foods. I don't know how to get into recovery. I'm going to call on God to help me. It's one of the steps to call on God. I don't know. I don't know if this relationship should end or not. Let me get into a healthy place. Why am I ending it? Oh, ego stuff. Look at it. Why are you ingesting unhealthy stuff? Look at it. But after all the clearing and dying well and the old going and your compulsions for certain foods and certain relations, after all that, feed your soul. And now what you ingest is a symbol of, this is how much I love myself. A hand holding of respect from somebody, a hand on the shoulder of support. Someone pays something forward. I'm noticing like at our center, like this last few months or whatever, I'm like going, God, like we struggled sometimes with handymen or electricians or whatever category it might be, bookkeepers. And I just sit and I've been looking going, it is remarkable how we manifested the best of every category that I can imagine. It's like, where were they? When? You mean when we had to learn lessons about this? They weren't there then. But as we keep combing out the knots in our consciousness and working together and love and respect and all that, we manifested these amazing people. Did you guys see the angel on the wall outside? That was an unexpected surprise today. The guy actually showed up. And he lives in Sedona. A contractor that showed up in Sedona. I'm like, oh, happy day. Like, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. This guy's remarkable. And he's like, and we have guys that come out here and they're one of our couple of handymen. It's just amazing. He could be charging this amount and he only accepts this. We have an amazing Native American gentleman who he's come in recently and he was sharing with Dosi, who is the coordinator of most of our events. And he was showing her some of the native songs and drumming. And, and he's like, this one is to do this and this one. He's telling her the different songs and why. And then she said, well, we would love to have you for a Sunday service and we'll pay you this amount. Oh, no. The grandfathers don't allow us to charge. Now, I'm still going to find a way. And he said, well, I make art. if you guys want that, yes, lots of it. My point is, I love love and I love integrity like that. This guy's just such a pure place. And then, Dosi did due diligence. She said, here's a video. I'm like, I don't need to see a video. No, here's a video. I go click. And it was on for what? All of 1 second. I go, okay, I'm done. He's in. You see? For me, that level of light, it's us. It's very typical. So we go for it. By the same token, there's teachers and authors and things out there that don't have that, what they claim to have. So it doesn't feel right to have them here. So you and I have to still make day-to-day decisions. We still, we want to come from our hearts, but we still have to make day-to-day decisions. Going towards a closing of all this, the relationships we have in our life, there's going to be challenges. And some people are going to say, I'm totally ready for awakening and going to new levels. Can I be a chaplain? You can't just be a chaplain. You need to talk to Jeff. You can't just be a member. You have to talk to Dosi. We want you to know what you're doing. We don't want just, well, this is exciting. I think I'll become a member. We don't want that. We want you to know what it means to become a member, which is simple, but we still want you to know. You want to become a chaplain. Why? Well, because a friend of mine is. Wrong reason. We want people to be very clear and conscious about whatever decisions they're making in their lives. Like I personally don't make decisions like based on what people might think. You have two siblings arguing. Well, I'm right and I'm right. I'm going to stay out of that. A Course in Miracles says, if you want a holy relationship, you align with who's most sane in the moment. And I love that line. Who is the most sane? I like that. So I don't typically choose a person over another. Not if you've been here the longest, not you've donated the most money. It's who is the most sane. I watch what's happening with the people involved. And when someone's starting to go into ego, it's like, uh-oh. And I'm not going to support that. So I make those kinds of decisions. Just a quick example so we can all kind of get the 3D, in our own lives version of it. Many, many years ago, I was in a relationship, and it was interesting because there was a point where there were some challenges with this person. They had a lot of certain old abuses and all that. So I was getting the brunt, and some of you can relate, I was getting the brunt of a lot of the unpredictable moods and things like that were going on. I have my lessons related, they had their lessons related, but my advice wasn't going to help because I'm already in the relationship, see? Which to me, it's like, well, then that's a drag because I'd like to help because I can see what's going on. But no. So you know what I did? I said, we ought to go to couples counselor. They said, okay. We went to a couples counselor. We sat down, shared what's going on. The counselor said, I'm going to give you each homework. Both of you the same homework, but I'm going to give you some homework. They gave us the homework. We went home. We went back 2 weeks later. They asked me, how did you do with the homework? I did fine, and shared what I got out of it, what I learned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They turned to her and said, so what did you learn? I didn't do the homework. Why not? Because I don't like it, and I didn't believe in it. He turned to me, and I tried not to make it too obvious. Inside, I'm like, I told you so, but no. But inside, I'm, just outside, and he just looked and he said, and I go, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you guys. And we were done. We ended it. But the point is, I went, and I did the homework. You've got to be willing to do your homework. If you're going to end a relationship, I don't care if it's with your own children, have you done what you can? I don't mean overly do. Have you done what you can while in your center to say, look, I'm willing to do this, but I'm not going there. I'm willing to flex a bit, but I'm not going to buckle. It's very important to be true to your spiritual self in any category of life. One of you asked about addiction and passion, and we've clearly covered a lot. The passion part is that lower self, what I want. Now, I'm not talking about everything down here, incidentally, is bad and evil. It is all bad and evil when it's coming from your ego. When you plug into God and you let God fill your heart, and your heart ignites the lower centers, they're not lower as in lesser. They're just lower in terms of proximity. You can be physically passionate, emotionally passionate when you're talking, when you're sharing intimately, as long as you're coming from here and it reflects here. When you're cut off from this runs in darkness on its own. It runs out of energy. It dies. It fatigues. It battles with others. Running exclusively from here is the unhealthy problem. Does that make sense? When you come from a higher place, you set a higher goal here. And then it's nice. And now, all that said, A Course in Miracles and teachings like that will say, the way they word it is, I don't know what any of this is for, but God does. So show me. Show me what this body is for. Show me what this food is for. And some people think it means you become very stoic and very, look how spiritual I am. No expression whatsoever. Nothing moves me. That's not actually spiritual. That's just swinging from one extreme to another. And a lot of people justify that as being spiritual. It isn't. It's, I feel alive. When you go to the supermarket, it always cracks me up. Moms pushing the cart, and the kids are like in the parking lot, twirling, and butterfly goes by and, almost hit by a car, but I'm not letting go of that butterfly. Oh, look, Mom, a butterfly. I think that's cool, but you know why? Because they're filled with something and they're following it. I'm not saying the excessiveness of being spaced out. I'm just saying feeling that thing. You can reach for another body because you're being compelled. I want bodies. I want to touch. I want to feel. You can also reach to another body because I want to let you know I love you. Hi, how are you? I'm not talking about just romantic, although that could be there. I'm just talking about touch can come from ego or from spirit. Smile can come from ego or from spirit. Writing a poem can come from either. Singing a song can come from either. All of it can come from either. Which one are you choosing? Well, it's always God. Well, We'll know that it is more and more God when you start each day asking that it is God. That's how you don't just assume I read a book once, so it's all from God. Then make sure it is. How do you know? Because you're asking every day. As St. Francis puts it, less of me and more of thee. That's an amazing prayer. What does that mean? Keep peeling off the layers of my false self so that there's room for the real self to emerge. That's a great theory, but it's always got to be tested. So you could say less of me and more of thee. Okay, and so it is. Now let's test it. Take it out for a test drive. And you said less of me, more of thee, but when it came to an argument, you just had to be right. You failed. When it came to be a musician on the stage with other musicians, you just had to outshine them. Less of me and more of thee. Look at me, everybody. One great bass player was asked about his colleague, guitarist on the stage. What's it like to play with him? He said, well, it's kind of like being on stage with somebody that doesn't know anybody else is on the stage. That's not how I would want to be quoted or seen, but like, wow, dude. So think these things over. You asked about money changers. Money, prosperity, it can be coming from spirit or ego. What do you do with your money? What do you do with your smile? In some branches of Buddhism, we so often hear, Buddha, it sounds stoic and all serious and so, abstain from this and abstain from that. It seems like it. Well, that's what he taught some of the nuns and monks, but that was for the more extreme. What he really said to people is, whatever you have, share and use it to bring people closer to God. If you have money, use it well. If your smile is somehow brightens people's day, if you just have this really amazing smile, bright eyes, whatever it is, people go, wow, you have beautiful eyes. Use it to bring them home. Use everything. And it doesn't say except money because money's naughty. The money changers, they were coming from their ego. But Jesus wasn't cursing money. He used it to pay taxes that they were forced to pay. He's like, whatever. Why do I care about the money? That's of this world. That's what they want. Give it to them. Whose face is on it? God's? No, Caesar's. Then give him his money. It's apparently his. That's what he says. But give to God what's God's. Where do I find that? It's in your heart, your soul. I choose to live this life. Fill me. I don't know what recovery is. Show me. I don't know what dating is. I don't know what sex is. I don't know what illness is. I don't know what food is for. And say that. You go, well, of course I know. I'm a nutritionist. I know what food. The more you think you know, the worse off you are. It's nice when you say I don't know, because I don't know means a cup ready to be filled with spirit. If you say, well, I'm 90% clear, but give me 10% spirit, that's all you get. Just, the humility isn't humiliating. The humility means I just am so in love with the concept of God, I don't want anything else in the way. Right? If somebody says, listen, I decided to give away all the gold bars I have. I have a stack of gold bars in my room. Come on by with a suitcase. What do you need? Bring a backpack? A fanny pack? You can only fit one. A backpack? Okay, great. You can fit 10. You know what? Man, you go to Samsonite store or something and get one. Somebody says you can take as many as you can carry. I'm bringing a U-Haul truck. I'm just going to beep, beep, back it in, load it up. Why would you say I could have this, but I'll take that? Whether it's, and I'm talking about friendships are a launching pad for bliss. They really are. When you see the miracles, I'm glad you create miracles in prosperity, miracles in safety from tragedies. I think it's all fantastic. And Jesus did all these miracles. It was fantastic. What he really cared about was love and trust, respect. His apostles that sometimes asked him to fix their bodies of an illness, he'd say, no. I want you to believe in me without me fixing you. That's like huge. But it's the same. Jesus shows up. He's going to work miracles. What does he do? He pairs the apostles that annoy each other the most together. You know, this is going to be fun. Watch this, guys. Peter, which apostle do you hate the most? I hate Matthew, and I have a whole list of reasons why. That's a funny thing, because though you're the two, Spirit was telling me, I want you to go off together and work together. I mean, he pairs up the two most annoying people. They had free will to say, not me, I'm not giving in. They're wrong, I'm right. And Jesus would have no way he'd have seen right through it. Well, you can leave, but you're wrong. You know, you're wrong to give up on your brother, your sister, or whatever it is. Even your own children can turn on you, guys. Don't hate them. Don't ever hate anyone. That doesn't mean you can't be annoyed and angry. I get it. Be hurt, that's fine. Refuse to hate them. Look at your own lessons and affirm the light of God in them. If you can do those three things, it means you have a commitment and a willingness to heal. And when it comes to finances, look at it really. It's not about manifesting a car of money and so. You would already have these things if there weren't blocks in the way. That's responsible behavior. To say, well, you know, if I don't already have that new car, if my house is not selling, I can go to all the books and people as to why. And you should and could do it. I don't care. Burn that saint, bury it upside down in your yard. There's all these techniques people have for selling a house. I got them all. But it's also worth saying, and what in me might be in the way? And work on that piece. When you release that, you untangle. There's a great metaphor of Alexander, who was great, Alexander the Great. The Gordian knot is this, it's a puzzle that you cannot solve. The Gordian knot was a metaphor of an unsolvable problem. What am I going to do with this relationship? Well, they have to forget. No, they have to say sorry first. Or addiction. Oh my God, I'm so entrenched with addiction. It's the Gordian knot. He looks at it and it's so brilliant. He looks at it, takes a sword and he just cuts it in half. Problem solved. All the mystics and oracles, they're like, none of us thought of that. Think outside the box. Don't get into the knot and try to figure out the knot. Don't enter a problem or an addiction and try to solve it when you're part of it. Get an objective view. God, I don't know. Show me. And don't sit there going, no, I'm waiting. Stop and allow, because it might be a spontaneous insight. It might be just a sense of peace, like, wow. Who would have thought that a week after starting a divorce, I could feel peace and no ill will towards anyone? You still get your righteous percentage. You don't go, well, now that I'm so peaceful, here, you can have it all, unless that's what God told you to do. But just the beauty and the clarity it's practical to say, what would you have me do? And you start to feel, and what happens for me is, it's, as I've always said, even when doing a talk, it's a search find. When I say, there's this issue, what would you have me do? It's like downloading answers, a sentence to say to this person, something to not say to that person. It's a feeling, a mood, a shift, and it's fantastic. Human beings will go into relationships based on moods, and they react to each other based on moods. I don't want moods. I don't want hormones. I don't want anything of this world telling me what to do, how to feel. I don't want genetics telling me how I'm supposed to be. I want to be an artist, but that doesn't run in our family. So I guess I'll just be I don't want to name anything to offend anybody, okay? But you see what I mean? Like, people do this all the time. I would have loved, but my family didn't let me take lessons. Where are your family members? Well, they've all passed on. What do you think? They're like watching from the other side. Don't you dare take that class. If anything, they got to the other side and they went, oh, jeez, I get it. You're supposed to have been that, so please. And now they're on the other side having to clung to your aura because they're trying to say, sorry about that, take the class. And you just keep scratching and you don't know why. Some annoying spirit going, take the class. Please, see through these things. Don't let the things of this world make decisions for you. Go somewhere else. Try this. I don't know. That's what one of the heart prayers is. I don't know. But you see what it does? When I say I don't know, it opens this so that something can pour from the heavens to tell me. And all of a sudden, wow, this is remarkable. This class shows up, this coincidence, this synchronicity, and it's all taking me in a healthy direction. But it might also mean closing the door on other careers and other things you might have chosen. Please take a few centering breaths. As always, setting aside all the stuff of this world. None of it matters. Only spiritual and psychological healthiness matters. That's your center in God. No stories matter. No defenses, no excuses, no blames, no judgments, even though some are pretty harsh abuses sometimes in our childhood or other lifetimes. Somebody could have taken our life in another lifetime and likely did. But what do I want to do with that today? There is no one that I will refuse to forgive. I'm not discrediting or dissing your hurts. It's okay if something hurts you and say, okay, well, I'm willing to do this meditation, but I have to say I'm still hurt by this. Well, then feel hurt. It's okay. Let's go as far as you're willing to go. There is no one I would exclude from our return home. Even if you feel the other, just try this anyway. Father, Mother, God, there have been people, maybe lots, that I would have been hurt by, annoyed by, angry at, etc. at one time. I would have thought of this and them, me and them, me against at one time in my life. But that's impossible today. Those who I thought were they are parts of us, all of us. Every crime, intellectual, psychological, emotional, financial crime, every misdeed, wrongdoing exists in us all in different ways. If I exclude anyone from going home, then that stays alive and it'll toxify all of us to some degree. Today, my forgiveness is complete. My willingness is complete. I love as God loves. I forgive as God forgives. Of myself, I'm nothing. I don't know how to do all of this. So I invite you, the Holy Spirit of God, to fill me. Do it for me. Do it with me. I'm already giving permission. Love through me, heal through me, shine through me. For all that I thought was unhealable, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you for forgiving me. There is no one I can exclude. It doesn't even enter my mind in this moment. Love to you all the people I see in my mind. Nations, dictators, hurtful people, deceptions, corruptions, financially, religiously, scientifically. Forgive them all. The world of medicine, war, all of it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to pretend these challenges aren't there for some people. What it means is they no longer hold me hostage. Love to you all. Love to all of you politicians, religious leaders, and so on, even through history. Love to you all, every nation leader, every aggressor, every abuser of children. If you knew who you were, you would never have been able to do the things you did. So today, I'm not going to fight the one you became. I'm going to stand for the one you really are. And then you would have never done this. So I'm affirming your goodness, and let that goodness come out and shine so bright that you could never again cause harm. How is that not my choice? How could I have ever chosen anything else? My brother, sister, you are released. You are free. And we're free together. Peace be with you. I'm sorry for the pain that made you behave that way. But peace is here filling us now. Soak this in. You don't have to stop being angry. You don't have to stop crying or being hurt. Feel that if you need, but allow this in as well. The peace of God that takes you above all the stuff of this world. This is how I become, and this is how I am, the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And so it is. Nice. Thank you so much. Just take a moment to reintegrate into the room. We'll do a couple of announcements in a moment and a closing prayer. How are you feeling from the talk and the meditation? Good. Anybody in a word or two? Great. Anything else, a word or two? Relief, healed, anything else personal? Resonated. Good. Yes?
When I find the peace within, I learn how to love. And if I love, I radiate joy.
Yeah. The peace within brings love, and if I love, look what happens, the changes that can happen immediately. And, there's days you're not in the mood for that, and I get it.
I don't know.
Yeah, the I don't know prayer. Over there, who was it?
I was going to say, fascinating, funny, and comforting.
Fascinating, funny, and comforting. Very cool. Thank you. Yes? Pardon? Uplifting. Good. And isn't that the way it should be? Yes?
I feel heard and responded to.
Heard and responded to. Now, I didn't say, tell me what you want so I can hear you and respond to you, right? Yet she's feeling that way. You know why? Because she chose to feel that way. Some part of her allowed herself to feel heard. And on some level, I heard. And we heard. She could not feel heard if we didn't, on some level, deep in the soul, we opened up for whatever she needed to feel. You see? We co-created a healing. All healings have to be co-created. They're not bestowed by someone who's better than someone else. We're in this together. And the very idea that you would even care, like for me to ask you, what would you like me to talk about? It's because I care. I could show up with a memorized lecture because that's all I know how to do, or because I don't really care what you want me to talk about. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. That just isn't my style. As healers, parents, whatever you do in life, the idea to care about people enough to want to know how they're doing, how they're feeling, it already sets things in motion that are miraculous without even getting to the 3D of it. But it's an amazing thing, you guys. The way you'll put your hand on someone's shoulder when they're, hurting, comforting each other, or even just in a prayer, you see someone that's hurting, sending them a prayer, addressing the people watching online, because we could just keep talking and ignore them. They're in the room too. Now, even if I don't say that, I already believe it. So they're included. Now they're sitting out there. They'll watch this. One of them said this week, 3 years after the talk, they go, and it was addressing everything I'm going through. Because this is supernatural, what we do here. it might seem casual because I make jokes and, it's kind of silly, the silliness of life. So it can be taken almost down a notch to think, oh, this is kind of fun and kind of relaxed. That's also just part of the game, to let it get in deeper to the mind, to the soul. If I stood here and sounded very intense all the time, and it will overwhelm, and then people will shut down. So the laughter, the ease, the inclusiveness is how people can drop this stuff, and then all of us are healed and brought to a new level, together. A teacher that lectures at people, it's not the best thing, but also you as a parent, just telling your kids because you're older, what does that mean? They might have had 10 enlightened lifetimes. You might have had 0, and you're telling them all about how life should be. I get that you believe you're right and all. I get it. And you're maybe good intentions. But you tell your partners and your children when you go home, a lot of you, this will apply, some it will not. But, to be able to say to people, listen to the kids, I just want to let you know. Don't say I went to a lecture and you don't have to sell us. Talk about you. It occurred to me that a lot of times our conversations are, I wish you would read this book. I wish you would go to this center. I wish you believed like I believed. I wish you did the same prayers as me. I want to apologize for that. Some people get like, what? I'm not going to apologize for my righteousness. Yeah, you should. I'm sorry about that, because here's what you say. You know what I was asking for? I was trying to get you on my path. What I really needed to do was trust, because I talk about trusting God. You, my child, and I don't care if they're full-on drug addicts, I'm trusting that you are in God's hands. I thought I needed to get you on my path. You're on the spiritual path. I don't even believe in that. It doesn't matter. You're on the spiritual path. You have a spirit, and you have a walk each day. You go out somewhere. That's a path. You have a spiritual path. Even if you don't believe in spirit, you're on a spiritual path. And I'm now letting that be. You see? Like, ease up on all of it. The husbands, the wives that aren't on the same path, relax. Jesus has tried to make us understand being it is better than preaching it. So just practice that, being it. And that means not just being all cosmic. It means trusting your husband, wife, your exes. They're on a path, and that's between them and God. Even if it's a destructive path, it's not your business. Send them love and wish them home. Hold the vision of them coming home. Not as them being lesser and, thank God they got you to pray for them. Thank God you're around. That just does this. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. There are people that were kind of down here spiritually that rose up here in a day. Others took 100 years. There are people that were not as awake as you are that are now more than awake than you are. You can't determine who's winning the race because it's free will and choice. There are people that are messed up, and yet all of a sudden they become clean and sober, man, and they wake up. And you're still, I only have a beer a day. They used to do a 6-pack a day. Now the 6-pack person is totally in communion with God, and I'm still sitting here with my beer a day. You're not better than them. Boom, they just took off. It's the same with prosperity. Yes, it's frustrating to say, I'm a prosperity, person, and I walk around. I always wear green with dollar signs on it. And, and I've written a check to myself for $10 million. It's in my wallet. I do all the prosperity techniques. I burn gold candles because it's gold. And I visualize gold dust from the ethers. And I do affirmations. I have subliminal tapes that have ocean sounds. But underneath the ocean sounds, I am amazing and prosperous. I do all this stuff. And I've been doing it for 5 years because any day now. And then, a friend comes over, they're like, oh, really? Prosperity? Tell me. And you tell them about it, and they win the lottery the next day. And you're like, oh, I hate you. Now, there's why you don't win the lottery, because you had a lesson. Yeah, but they only did this one day because it has nothing to do with the miracles on the outside. That's just kind of window dressing. The consciousness is what and all that matters. Thank you. We're going to take up our collection and do our closing prayer. We'll do our love offering blessing, which apparently everybody knows. Be as generous as you can be online. There's a link you can click to donate. Here, there's the bags, purple bags. Oh, they should have been gold. The purple bags. And that's for your love offerings for today. The baskets are for any extra donations you can make. Just be as generous as you can be. And we do our best to use it to help people of lesser means or for some special projects. Okay? Hold your love offering to your heart with deep sincerity. Together, please, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you, thank you. While they're passing those around, it'll only take a minute or so. We're announcing this week that the end of September, we're having our Daughters of Heaven conference again. So if you want to be, if you're interested in being a volunteer or participating, we're going to meet in that meeting room right back there. First, we're going to have a brief chaplain meeting. So the Daughters of Heaven folks, just wait outside for a few, please, and then we'll invite you in when it's time for the other. But we're going to have a brief chaplain meeting first. We do that the first of every month. Okay, got that? And there's also a prayer done, a prayer circle done. Do you do that today? Okay, so that's each week except the first Sunday. So if you ever want to receive prayer from our chaplains online or in person, you can be part of that prayer. We have the crystal bed healing room out here. That's for the crystal bed sessions. They are honestly extraordinary. You can sign up today in the foyer. They usually have a mailing list or a registration list for sessions, or you can call the office anytime during the week. We have a healing room just a block away that people can go to. We have extraordinary healers there, getting anything from body work, emotional work, prayer, whatever a person needs. They're very, very skilled. We have several practitioners that work out of that room. In social media, thank you for watching us online. Please remember, we don't just do this live here. On social media, we also have a Monday Friends of Michael Mirdad group on Zoom. And then every other Saturday, we have what's called the Daughters of Heaven Zoom group. Daughters of Heaven is a website you can go to learn more about that theme, that topic. There's a book and a conference and so on. Daughters of Heaven is like gathering the most heart, sincere, devoted people, light workers in the world towards going, to a higher level of consciousness. This afternoon, we have from 1 to 4, we have our spiritual mythology course. And that's something I do the first Sunday of every month. That's been fantastic, and it'll be fantastic today. You can sign up anytime during the year, but it's sooner the better. And you can always go back and watch the former months that we've done it. And then this Wednesday, we've got our healing circle. It's kind of partly a support group in a way, and also techniques we learn. You don't have to do things, you can just watch, but it's a circle where we talk about what's going on and things that are unhealed, and we bring them forward, sometimes showing exercises, physical, that release these things, sometimes just emotional support. Very, very cool. One last thing, in the bookstore, I generally don't remember to announce it, but we have gift bags, especially for anybody, but anybody that's visiting especially, because sometimes you don't know what to get a friend going back home, family member, whatever. There's a bag. It'll have a book. I think it's like $20, but a book, an incense, a card, incense burner, several things all in one bag. So it's a really easy way to pick up, all in one bag, several things that could be a great gift for people. Okay? Please stand for our closing prayer. This is great. We're right on time today. Soaking in the love. Take just seconds to look around at each other. With your mind, send a blessing of love. Could be a little smile or whatever, but just a love, just a download of love and respect. Peace to you all. The peace of God be with you. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is.